My name is Washington. I'm a student of Asaba Secondary School. I'm in SS2 Science class. I'm here to give a brief summary of the novelette written by George Orwell, which is Animal Farm. Animal Farm is a novelette written by George Orwell. This Animal Farm is talking about animal making a revolution, and this revolution was carried out by the animal because they were saying that their human master have been put to them. He has been making them work for him without receiving anything for it. So at night they held their meeting, and the leader there was the old major. Old major carried out this meeting, and then he mobilized this animal to seek for rebellion against human master, so they will be able to have their own republican states and rule themselves. So he motivated them, and he taught them this music called Beast of England, and he told them to continually sing this every day when they are having meeting. So the animal kept this in mind. Also, old major was not able to witness this revolution, but he was the one that took up this revolution and told the animal that they must seek for revolution. And then he died. He was not able to witness the revolution. So the animals stick to the plan of rebelling against their human master who have been truth to them. So they carried out this, and then with the help of the successor of Old Major, which is Napoleon and Snowball, this rebellion came into succession, and they were able to claim the manor farm, which was owned by Mr. Jones. And when they claimed this manor farm, which was owned by Mr. Jones, they named it the Animal Farm. They named it the Animal Farm, and then they began to run everything in the farm. They began to set up committees to make sure that this animal farm is being run properly. So this is summary. It's talking about after the revolution, after the animalism that have been given to them by Old Major, the animal came up with 7 commandments, which is 1, whatever that walk upon 2 feet are enemies. 2, whatever that walk upon 4 feet or has a wing are friends. Then they should not drink alcohol, they shouldn't sleep in bed like human, they shouldn't do what human does, so they should just live, and they shouldn't trade like human trade. So this commandment was set up, and then the animals were prepared. Literally the pig were the intelligent animals among these animals found in the animal farm. So they were the major people carrying out the affairs of the animal farm. So they were major people carrying out the affair of the animal farm. They were carrying out this affair of the animal farm to make sure that this animal farm is being run properly. So while they were carrying out, they were prepared to fight against Mr. Jones, because in their mind, this rebellion came unaware out of anger, and then they drive out Mr. Jones out of the farm. So there is this war that took place in the animal farm, which is the war of the cow's shed. This war of the cow's shed took place, and the animal fought ferociously and won victoriously. So in summary of the animal farm is talking about how Napoleon, out of jealousy, out of greed, came into power, and he drive out Snowball, which was the creative one, who came with the idea of making windmill installation and electricity generation. So after this, he was able to drive him out of the animal farm, and then he took charge, began to change laws and order. He began to do whatever that feels is the best. And the most stupid animal in the midst was the sheep. The sheep kept on bleeding. 4 legs are good, 2 legs are bad. So when Napoleon came with Squealer, he was able to maneuver the animal, because the animal were illiterate, they couldn't understand anything. So he was able to maneuver them. He was able to manipulate their mind, and he was able to manipulate their mind using his right man Squealer to manipulate the mind of this animal. And at the end, the animal were angry because they felt that this the revolution that were given to them by Old Major, this animal equality in the animal farm was all destroyed, was all being trashed and was crumbled, all because the greedy Napoleon came into power. So in summary of this novelette, Animal Farm is a kind of allegory story. It has a lot of meaning, despite the fact that animals are being used to carry out this, let me say, information the author was trying to give us. It also has its historical facts from the Russian Revolution. So I won't say much about that because there's no time. So I really appreciate everyone. The moral lesson I learned is determination. The animal, they were determined to carry out this rebellious act to make sure that they gain this, their freedom, they gain this, let me say, they gain this freedom because man has been exploiting them. So they were determined, but what happened is this: Napoleon just crumbled everything. Another moral lesson I gain is ignorance is a disease. The animal were ignorant. The animal, let me say, they were illiterate. They were not able to read. So they were being maneuvered and manipulated by the cunning and opulent squealer, who always manipulate their thoughts and tell them that whatever Napoleon was doing was for their own good. So being an illiterate is not good. So we should try to make sure that we go to school, and we should make sure that we participate in anything our governments are doing, so we will not be manipulated the way the animal were manipulated in the animal farm. Thank you very much.
My name is Ubo Precious, and I'm a student of Asagba Secondary School, and I'm in SS2E. I'm here to give a summary and few moral lessons from the poem The Leader and the Led by Niyi Oshudare. The poem begins with a setting in the forest where the animals started contesting for who will be their leader. They began the power tussle, each animal stating their characters that will qualify them as leaders. Every animal gave the qualities they feel they have to qualify them to be leaders, but not all animals were qualified to be leaders. The lion came up and he says he's qualified to be a leader. He stakes his claim for the leadership of the pack, but the other animals, they were like, no, you have they remember the ferocious pounds of his paws. Other animals came up to stake their leadership claims, but they were all rejected by one flaw or the other. Every animal came up. The impalas came up for his position in leadership, but other animals were like, your flaw is your leather appetite. He was not able to control his appetite, and they were like, if you are not able to control your appetite, you will not be able to lead us. So a leader should have the position that he will not be able to oppress his people. In the poem, The Leader and the Led by Niyi Oshudare, all other animals came up claiming that they were able to lead. Even the elephant joined the power tussle. He came up and he claimed he will be able to lead the pack because he is big enough, but other animals were too afraid because a leader is not supposed to frighten his people. And when the elephant came up, he frightened his people. Every other animal came and there was this power tussle, thereby causing misconduct within the animals. They were not able to arrange themselves and coordinate themselves. So the forest sage had to come up. The forest sage came up and staked his claim that a leader should have a little bit of the characters from the lion and from the dove. A leader should have a little bit of character from the tiger. A leader should be mysterious, and a leader should be transparent. So the three moral lessons I learned from this poem, The Leader and the Led by Niyi Oshudare, is one: every leader should be transparent in their dealings with the people. Like in the African society, most of our leaders, they are not transparent with us. That is why we are ignorant about what they are doing. So every leader should be transparent to his people, and his people should be able to know what he's doing part time. The second moral lesson I learned from this poem is that everyone claims to have the qualities that qualify them as a leader, but not everyone really is fit for the position. Everyone wants to be a leader, but not everyone has the quality that qualifies a person to be a leader. So a leader should have the good qualities like transparency, honesty, popularity, and he should be close to his people. The third moral lesson I learned from this poem is that a leader should be committed to his people. Every leader is elected to serve his people, and if the leader is not committed to serving the people, what's the leader there for? So a leader is supposed to be committed in serving the people and helping them out. And thank you all.
Good everyone, I am Smith Anuku. I am in SS2E, and I attend Asaba Secondary School. I'm here to give the plot summary of a novel titled Animal Farm by George Well. Animal Farm is a story of animals in a farm named Manor Farm. This Manor Farm was owned and controlled by a farmer called Jones. One day, these animals were summoned by an old pig who was named Old Major. On getting there, they gathered in the barn where Old Major lives. And on getting there, Old Major describes to them of a dream of how the world will be when the animals were free from the tyrannies of human beings. 3 years later, Old Major dies, but the animals, motivated and inspired by his philosophy of animalism, plot a rebellion against the human masters. Snowball and Napoleon makes themselves important figures and puts the burden of planning the rebellion on their shoulder. The rebellion occurs when Jones forgets to feed the animal, and Jones and his men were chased out of the farm. The farm was renamed Animal Farm, and the former flag of the Manor Farm was pulled down, and the Animal Farm flag was installed. Few days later, after the success of the rebellion, the animals completed the harvest and decide to be gathering every Sunday morning to make farm policies or debate farm policies. The supervision of the animals were laid in the hands of the pigs, who were regarded as intelligent among the animals. But Napoleon, a pig who always steals apples and the cow milk, was power drunk. He was selfish. He wanted power, so he wanted power. So in order to get his goal, in order to get his ambition, he enlisted the service of a pig who was named Squealer. This pig was known for the ability of convincing other animals that the pig were always morally right. And the pig were always morally right in their decisions. At the fall, Mr. Jones and his men attempts to retake the farm, but thanks to the war tactics of Snowball, which he got from a book of Julius Caesar, the animals defeated the human beings on a battle which was later named the Battle of Cowshed. This animal, after defeating the human beings, became more determined. So during the winter, Molly, a horse which was known for her love for sugar and ribbons, goes missing. Also during this winter, Snowball begins drawing a plan of a windmill, which is, as he said, will give the animals comfort and electricity in the farm. But Napoleon vehemently opposes this plan for a windmill on the grounds that it will afford the animals less time for food production. On the day that this issue was brought before the animals to vote, Napoleon, with the help of 9 sturdy dogs, expels Snowball out of the farm forever. At that moment also, he announces to the animals that the Sunday meeting will no longer hold, but the windmill will be built after all, because it was his idea originally, which was stolen by Snowball. So the rest of the year saw the animals building the windmill. These animals were determined, and with the help of a horse named Boxer, this Boxer, he was slow in thinking, but he offered his strength. God blessed him with a great strength, so he gave all his strength to the building of the windmill. And when he gave all his strength to the building of the windmill, so gradually Napoleon started changing the whole laws of the animal in the favor of the pigs, started engaging in trade with other farm, which was against the law of animalism. So gradually, the animals were changed. The laws of the animals were changed by the pigs. The laws of the animal were changed by the pigs, and gradually the pigs started behaving like the human beings. The moral lessons I learned in this book is that this animal had the spirit of patriotism in them. No matter, even though that the animals at a stage, the animals were hunger and pain and suffering in the farms, but this animal has they still loved the farm, and they were proud of the farm. If we connect it to what's happening in Nigeria today, a little problem, you see people running out of the country because they don't have the spirit of patriotism. But with the spirit of patriotism, you'll be always proud of your country. And also the animals were committed. They identified their goals, and that was rebellion. They identified their goals, and that was rebellion. So they pursued with all their might. They were determined, they were committed to the demands of this rebellion. Commitment can also be seen in the side of Boxer. Boxer knew he was slow in reasoning, but he decided to give the animals, his strength. He sacrificed his strength, which also led to his death. Also, another moral lesson I learned is selfishness of power. These animals had the vision. These animals had the vision of making a farm where peace will reign, and where peace will reign, and the animals will be rich. But when selfishness of power arose in the animals, everything changed. The atmosphere changed. It became the opposite of what's happened. So thank you.
My name is Ifeshiku Israel. I'm a student of Asaba Secondary School. I'm in SS1D. I'm here to give a summary on the book Second Class Citizen by Bushi Emesheta. This is a story that tells the journey of its protagonist, Ada, from childhood in Nigeria to adulthood in London. So Ada's story started only when she was 8 years old, when she developed a dream to go to the United Kingdom, when she was not going to school. So Ada takes it upon herself to go to school one day, and from there on after, she started going to school and gained a scholarship to study in high school, where she soon finished high school and later married Francis, a young student who is studying accounting, and started living with his parents. So Ada, after marrying Francis, Ada is disappointed to find out that she will be the only one working to support the family. So after the marriage, Ada quickly became pregnant with the first child, Titi. So after she became pregnant and gave birth to the first child, Titi, she became pregnant again, and that was when a plan was conceived for Francis to study in the to travel to the United Kingdom, UK, London. And when he traveled there, soon after, Ada gave birth to her child and decided she must join her husband there. And then she traveled with her 2 children to Liverpool, where she was greeted by a changed Francis, who has adopted some of the British mannerisms and sense of humor. Francis claims that Ada has also changed when she turns back to him and says that and criticizes Ada for her frigidity. And after a long separation, Francis wants to sleep with his wife. Though Ada knows that they shouldn't have any child so soon, but she gives in. So later on, while living with Francis in the small room where they were accommodated, Ada discovers that the landlady and landlord is antagonistic towards her and Francis. So, and resent the children's noise. Soon after again, Ada became pregnant with her child, and gave birth to him. Ada was at a library and became the breadwinner of the family again, and takes care of her children. After giving birth to her third child, Ada goes to a clinic to inquire about contraception, and was given a form and a pamphlet and a form for Francis to sign. So Ada knows that Francis wouldn't sign it. Then she ends up signing forging Francis' signature. And after that, when she wanted to visit to take the pills for contraception, but was discouraged by a young immigrant woman who she met there and fixed the cap. After fixing the cap, she went home and Francis discovered that Ada is working strangely and forces the truth out of her. And then he quickly forces the truth out of her and shames her. He shames her and exposes her in a letter to her family, to his family. So Francis beats Ada as he does periodically throughout the novel. Francis criticizes Ada for her frigidity, and later after that, Ada became pregnant for the first time and went to the doctor to say that she can't have a child. But the doctor gives her a medicine that she thought will abort the child, but that was not the doctor's intent. And later, Ada wrote a novel, White Price, and gave it to Francis to read. Francis says he wants to read it and burns it. That was the last straw for Ada, as she has received more. So Ada then went away with her children and then takes Francis to court, where Francis denies being the father of the children and her husband. After that, when Ada was leaving the court that day, she meets an old school companion who paid for a taxi for a room. One of the moral lessons I learned from this novel is that education is power. Without education, we can't do anything. As we could see in the novel, that Ada was educated. If Ada wasn't educated, she wouldn't have been able to go to the London where she went. It was because she was educated that she went to the London and started fending for her family and became the breadwinner. Whatever we set our mind to, we always do it. Now, anything we set our mind, any goal we set our mind, we always do it, as we can see in the novel, as Ada did it.
My name is Martin Deborah. I'm in SS2B. I'm in Asaba Secondary School. I'm here to summarize the Second Class Citizen. Second Class Citizen, written by Buchi Emecheta, and the major character, the Ada Ofili, which is an Igbo that lived in Lagos, and with also her mother and her father. And her mother had, because she really wanted to go to school, but her mother had disagreements. But her father was, let me say, he was a little bit willing, but her mother couldn't agree to that. So Ada, out of stubbornness, when her mother left the home, she sneaked to her school and to the school which her neighbor teach, her neighbor Mr. Cole teach. Then she was able to learn with them. So when the police discovered this, and they arrested her mother for the cause that her mother didn't allow her to go to school, and they made her mother to drink a bowl of garri. So after then, when she went home, her father just caned her a little for the sake of her mother. Then she started attending school, but not long enough, her father died. Then her and her younger brother boy had to drop to a lower school. Ada attended Methodist Girls' School, a school that was run by nuns. So Ada managed to gain a scholarship to secondary education. When she finished her secondary education, she then married Mr. Francis, which was an accountant to be. So after that, Mr. Francis had to leave for England. So while living for England, Ada didn't cry, because normally African women, when their husband was about to leave the country, they would normally cry. But Ada she didn't see any reason and any need to cry, because she couldn't even force tears out of her eye. So Mr. Francis was angry about that. So after some time, Ada pressurized her mother-in-law that she and her children should go to England to stay with her husband. So when they got to England, Ada met Francis there in England, and Francis made her know that even though she was educated here in her country, that doesn't matter to him there in England. So she noticed some weird change in Francis. So after that, Francis was reluctant to the family business. Ada even became the breadwinner of the family, and she also became Francis' punching bag and work sack. So she did all the work, every chores and everything for Francis. So Francis, which was also reluctant in his family business, then I would say that after some time, when Ada managed to get a job, then she now went in search for houses. She faced so much discrimination by white people that she even felt ashamed of her black skin. There are some houses she would go, then she would see no colors allowed, which means that they can't allow black people in this house. Even when they managed to find a house, it was so unbearable for them and so uncomfortable. But Francis also felt reluctant about that. So after some time, when Ada managed to get a good job, she wrote a manuscript titled Bride Price, and when she showed it to Francis to read, he didn't even bother to read it, because I would say maybe it's because of his hatred and his dislike for Ada and her children. So he just burned the manuscript. Then Ada, that really caused a big separation in their family. So Ada and Francis, they had to just break up because of this separation. And I would say that the lessons I learned from this second-class citizen is that Ada was determined. She knew what she wanted, because even with her mother's disagreements, she still strived to go to school. And I'll say that Ada was self-dependent. She depended on herself for everything she wanted. Even with Francis' reluctancy, she still said that she can do this by herself. She didn't allow the African color to pull her down from what she wanted to achieve. She did what she wanted despite all the discrimination. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
My name is Okeke Cynthia Kosarachi. I'm a student of Asaba Secondary School and I'm in SS2A. I'm here to give a summary of the prose titled Second Class Citizen by Buchi Emechita. It is the story of a young girl called Ada in the 1950s during the time of the colonial system. So Ada was bright, and as a young girl, she knew she wants education. She knew she wants education, and she was determined that she really wants to go to school. Although her parents there wasn't the support of her going to school. So as Ada was beaten because of this, but they let her attend it anyway. So after Ada's father died, she was sent to live with her uncle's family, where she secretly enrolled into high school despite being beaten for it again. She gets a scholarship due to this high score she got during the entrance examination. As Ada comes of age, her family pushes her to marry, but she only decided to do so once she realizes that she needs a husband and a home in order to pursue her education and studies. Ada married a man called Francis, who seemed kind and quiet, and gets a job as a librarian. The couples had a solid income due to Ada's job, and Francis develops and adopts the mindset that Ada must work in order to support the family. So Ada suggests that they move to England. Francis eventually agreed, but he has to go first in order to study accountancy. So after the birth of her second child, she was able to persuade and convince her in-laws to let her follow her husband there. In London, Ada saw that she didn't see what she expected. Things wasn't working as she expected it to be. Francis found a home in a poor neighborhood surrounded by Nigerian immigrants who told them not to expect anything better because they were second-class citizens. Ada eventually finds another job as a librarian in order to support her family. So Francis was reluctant to work or study. He abused Ada verbally, and he abused Ada verbally. So Ada was she wasn't deterred by all these things. She continued working and providing for the family. So Ada was pregnant for her third child. She was alone during childbirth, so she decided to secretly take contraception. But Francis discovers about this and beats her for it. Anna gets pregnant yet again, and this made Francis become more abusive towards her. So she gave birth to the child anyway without Francis' support or help. So after the first few months of her fourth child, yeah, she decided to write a book based on her life. Her friends at the library supported her and encouraged her to publish the book. But Francis, at the other hand, decided he burns the book. Ada was really angry and hurt because of this, so she broke up with him. She broke the marriage and eventually left him, taking her children with her. But Francis attacks her and follows her, so Ada have no other option than to sue him. So this story ends with Ada going to court against Francis. So I've got 3 more lessons from this story. 1, determination. Ada was determined, even though her parents wasn't in support of her going to school. She was still determined. She wasn't deterred by the obstacles she encountered. 2, hard work. Ada was very hardworking, although her husband wasn't contributing to the family income, but she herself did it. She was hardworking. And 3, she was self-dependent. She didn't depend on her husband to provide things for the family because she noticed her husband wasn't willing to do that, so she decided to take the responsibility on herself. So she did the work. Have a nice day.
Okay, my name is Obuta Henry. I'm a student of Asaba Secondary School and I'm in SS2. I'm here to give the summary of the leader and the led by me, Oshundari. And the poem goes like this. The animals gather together in the quest of who will be their leader, and the lion, the hyena, and the rhino, the warthog, and the rest of them, they contested to be the leader, and the contested is the right to lead. But the rest of the animal who they are to lead picked out the flaws and the imperfection in them, so they were not qualified to lead. In the process, the forest sage demanded for a call for a hybrid of habit, which is the qualities. So he demanded a little bit of a lion, which is action, and a little bit of a doe, which is compaction. So in the process, the lion stakes his claim because the lion is always known as a leader of the jungle, which is the king of the jungle. He stakes his claim that it is his right to lead, but he was disqualified because the antelope picked offense that because of his ferocious pounds of his spouse, he can't lead. So the lion was disqualified, and the hyena, because of his little appetite, was also disqualified to lead, and the warthog and the rhino were disqualified because they were too ugly and too riotous. So the rest of them contested, and this poem, The Leader and the Led, is more of related to our society because of the political system we have, and is trying to point out that your character as a leader is more important than the power and the position you have. So these animals, they contested for the position of who to be their leader, but they could not come to the conclusion that one of them would be their leader, and the forest sage picked up and called for a need for a hybrid of habit. And this is the summary of the leader and the led. And these are the moral lessons. Character is more important than power because character protects your leadership power. And the second one is, character is the moral force in leadership. Therefore, every leader must possess character. A leader must be humble to his followers and honest to them. Thank you.
Hello, good day. My name is Uche Esther. I attend Asaba Secondary School. I'm in SS2 art class. I'm here to talk about the plot summary and the moral lessons in the poem, The Leader and the Led by me, Oshundari. The poem is a very interesting one for me because it displays what is happening in our economic civilization. Everybody is seeking for power, but not everyone has the qualities and attributes to get that power. In this poem, it is situated in a forest where the animals are eager for a leader. All the animals join in the power tussle. The lion says the crown is meant for him, but the antelope shuddered at his ferocious paws. The giraffe said he's meant to be the leader, but his eyes are too far from the ground. The warthog is too ugly, the rhino too riotous. Every animal that comes out has a problem, has a glitch in their personality. But the forest sage comes up to say that a leader calls for a hybrid of characters, a hybrid of attributes. A leader should be mysterious like a lake and transparent like a river. A leader should be strong and at the same time gentle. A leader shouldn't be too big, neither should it be too small. This, after the forest sage says this, I believe that the forest sage, the reason why he said this is to tell the animals that not everybody here wants to be the leader, but not all of you here have the attributes and the qualities of being a leader. That is the plot summary of the poem, The Leader and the Led by Niyi Oshundare. The moral lessons, I learned a lot of moral lessons from this poem, but I'm going to say just 3. I learned that before you become a good leader, you must be a good follower. Because a leader doesn't just sit there and say, yes, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. A leader protects the interests of all their followers. I also learned that a leader should be concerned. You cannot be a leader and be nonchalant, or you cannot be a leader and be nonchalant. You have to possess that attribute of care and concern for each of your masses. I also learned that not everybody, not everyone has the qualities to be a leader, because a leader calls for a hybrid of qualities, many qualities. A leader you can't just be a leader and just be calm always. No, your masses won't respect you. You have to, as a leader, you have to be harsh but calm in a disciplinary way. That's what I understand, and thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Isadi Esther Kome. I am from Asaba Secondary School. I am in SS2 Arts class. I am here to state this poem of The Leader and the Led by Niyi Oshundare. This poem is talking about the lion kingdom, the animals kingdom, which there are many people who want to be a leader, but not all are qualified to be a leader. What do I mean that many people are here to be a leader, but not all are qualified? You can have the qualities of a leader, but there are still faults found in you. The lion claims to be a leader, but he's too ferocious. The zebra came up to say he wants to be the leader, but the parks point out to the duplicity of his stripes. The watchdog, the park also points out that they are too ugly, they can scare their children, their little young ones. So there came the sage. As we know, sage are the wise people who advise. They are wiser than all animals. They didn't tell us that sage they are animals, but they are wise people. And the sage came up and said that not all are qualified to be a leader. To be a leader, you need to have these characters in you. You need to be calm. Sometimes you need to be harsh. A little bit of the dove and a little bit of the lion, which is harshness. What I learned from this leader and the led, it's talking about, like, it's not all people who are destined to be a leader. I can't just come up today and say that I'm born to be a leader. Yes, everybody wants to rule. Everybody wants power. But when you look for that power, it turns out to be a disaster, because when you use power to rule, you rule like you are on top, and you don't even care if your citizens are in need of help. A leader must be caring. A leader must understand what his or her citizens need. A leader must have that compassion for his or her citizens. A leader must have understanding of his people, must have knowledge of what he or she must do. You don't just come out and say you want to be a leader. A leader starts from practicing. When you grow yourself, when you build yourself up and say, yes, I must be who I want to be, you become that person. A leader must have this authority, but don't let it get to your head.
My name is Ogenekewe Scholar, and I'm a student of Asaba Secondary School, SS2 Art Class precisely. I'm here to talk about the Prose, Second Class Citizen by Buchi Emecheta. The story tells the tale of Ada, a young ambitious girl. Ada was born in Nigeria during the Second World War. Ada had a dream. She dreamt to go to the United Kingdom, and despite the hegemonic structure, Ada was persistent on her dream. Ada ran off to school despite the discrimination and her parents telling her not to. So later, Ada managed to get a scholarship to secondary education. So Ada marries Francis, an accountant, and after that, Ada gets a job as a librarian, as an American ambassador librarian in Lagos. So Ada was very happy because her dream was coming to pass. Ada thought that with the money from the job, she could be able to save up and travel to the UK. But Francis was troubled because he knew that the UK traditions were different from that of Nigeria. So he sought advice from his father. But his father told him that the money is not running anywhere. That as a man of the house, Ada is going to bring the money to the house, and the money is for him, since Ada is his wife. So Francis traveled to the United Kingdom through the sponsorship of Ada, and later, when Ada was fed up, she decided that she and her children had to go to UK to join Francis, and then she pleaded with her mother-in-law. She pleaded with her mother-in-law to let her to go to Francis and promised that she's going to pay the school fees of all Ada's sisters and take care of the family. So Ada traveled to UK, but was surprised that the Francis that left her in Nigeria was very different from the one she met in the UK. Francis believed that no matter whether Ada had education or not, she is a second-class citizen, as in she is inferior to men. So Ada became the breadwinner of the family. She got a job as a librarian in the UK, and after everything, she decides to write a book depending on her life. So Ada shows it to the rest of her workmates at the library, and they were all impressed with the work. They told her that she should go ahead and publish it. But when she showed it to Francis, Francis was angry and burnt the book. Ada was very angry with Francis and told him that he had killed her child, because Ada referred to that book as her brainchild. So this made the marriage to break off. And after that, Ada had to find another house, and she and her children had to leave Francis alone. The story ends with Ada charging Francis to court and gaining the custody of her children. So Ada is left with nothing but 4 children and a box of clothes in the UK, wandering in the streets. So that is the summary of the story. Then the moral lessons I learned in this story is persistence. Ada was persistent, even though her parents told her that she could not go to school or they don't want her to go to school. She persisted and she finally went to school. The second lesson I learned was education. Education is powerful. If Ada wasn't educated, she wouldn't have been where she was. She wouldn't have been able to travel to the UK and realize her dream, her childhood dream. Then the third moral lesson I learned was dedication. Ada was dedicated in all what she did, and she was determined, even if everyone around her discouraged her. Thank you very much.